Hi, everyone. Vasu Vaddiparty here for the VPartySports Podcast for the Sunday morning, 9 a.m. on the East Coast, 6 a.m. on the West Coast. What a day it was for Saturday in the world of sports. The NBA, the NCAA with a full day. NHL had 14 games on the ice. But let's start with Saturday football. Wildcard weekend started in San Francisco, more specifically Santa Clara, where the 49ers, the number 2 seed in the NFC, took on the Seattle Seahawks, who were the number 7 seed, got in by virtue of a tiebreaker, the win over the Detroit Lions way back in week 4, eliminated the Lions, gave the Seahawks the 7th seed. Seattle played well in the first half. But in the second half, San Francisco's defense took over. They only allowed 6 points in the second half, down 17-16 at the half. Brock Purdy. How about Brock Purdy? Look at all the stuff he's done. The last 6 games that he started, 5 regular season games, came in halfway through the Miami game, was able to lead them to a victory against Miami. 5 straight wins later. 3 touchdowns today, 1 rushing touchdown. Looked a little nervous in the beginning. Took a 10-0 lead over Seattle. Seattle came back with a touchdown, a field goal by Robbie Gould, and then a touchdown from Geno Smith to DK Metcalf. By the way, I give Geno Smith a lot of credit this year for taking every snap under center, the Pro Bowl quarterback, resurrecting his career with the Seattle Seahawks. Had Jen Mueller on from Seahawks Radio the other day on the podcast, and she talked about how much of a difference Geno Smith made, and this is on the heels of Russell Wilson being traded during the summer from Seattle to Denver. They got a lot of draft capital. They got players back, and they look to be a team on the rise. Pete Carroll taking this team to the playoffs. They had no chance of winning 5 to 6 games coming into the year, but the old dog Pete Carroll found a way to do it. Defensively, they leaked oil during the year, but offensively, they were pretty good. Geno Smith had a lot to do with that. They started out 6-3, lost their next 3 out of 4, ended up at 7-6, and then went 2-2 to close out the year. So 9-8, they come into the playoff game, had a 17-16 lead at the half. Smith to Metcalf, Walker the third had a touchdown, and before you know it, a Jimmy Ward penalty right before the half gave Jason Myers a chance to give Seattle the lead. It was 16-14 at that time, but then the second half, 49ers took it down the field. They opened the kickoff with a touchdown. They were able to get another field goal, a couple more touchdowns later. Deebo Samuel was awesome, 6 catches, 133 yards, the 74-yard touchdown. Catch and run. He had big catches, 6 catches for 133 yards. Christian McCaffrey, I told you the key to the game, 119 yards rushing, the big run to open the game of 47 yards. I think it was 47 yards, something like that. But anyway, 119 yards total for Christian McCaffrey. Elijah Mitchell had 2 touchdowns for the 49ers as well, too. And they go on to win 41-23, easily covering the 9.5 or the 10. Depending on what you had. It was 10 yesterday morning. By the time the game happened, a lot of people had some money on the Seahawks. But even then, and it looked good, 17-16 for Seattle at halftime, at a plus 9.5 or 10, 41-23 San Francisco, as they once again shut down the opposition in the second half. All right, let's get to the game of the day in the NFL. Wildcard Saturday night in Jacksonville, a miraculous comeback by Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Doug Peterson called a masterful game in the second half. Bad luck, really, for the Jaguars. I know Trevor Lawrence looked bad. I watched every play of that game. 4 first-half interceptions. They were down 27-0 before they scored in the final minutes of the first half. Made it 27-7. They held the Chargers. They held the Chargers out in the first possession of the second half. They were able to rally, and before you know it, it was 30-20. Late in the game, Lawrence moved him downfield. He had good running by ETN. Christian Kirk was outstanding. He caught a touchdown pass to make it 30-27. Joey Bosa got an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on what he thought was a false start, complained too much. They took the penalty on the extra point, got to the 1-yard line where Trevor Lawrence just sneaked the ball over like that, sneaked the ball over the goal line to make it a 2-point game. Now, right there, if you had Jacksonville to begin with at plus 2.5, you're already covering, and all you had to do was get the ball back. And sure enough, they get a sack, they get a false start, they get 2 short plays, go out basically on 3 and out, and get the ball back. And sure enough, Jacksonville gets the ball near midfield. They go down on a couple plays, a 4th-and-1 play from the 38-yard line, a wishbone offense, 3 backs in the backfield on 4th-and-1. And you would think in today's NFL that they would just push Trevor Lawrence forward. Instead, a Travis Etienne run about 20-plus yards got them down into field goal range. The Chargers had badly used their timeouts. They used one early in the second half. They lost one on a challenge. They only had one left. And at that point, Brandon Staley was not going to use it. He let the clock run all the way down to 4 seconds before Doug Peterson called the timeout. Riley Patterson, who kicked a couple of field goals already, 36-yard game-winning field goal just inside the upright after the Kirk touchdown, the 2-point conversion. And there you have it, a 31-30 victory by the Jacksonville Jaguars. They had the home field. They were the number 4 seed. They were a 2.5-point underdog. The line went down to 2 by game time. I had it at plus 2.5, so I was going to win either way, provided there was no miraculous ending like there was in the Jets-Dolphins game last week with the safety that went against me. But sure enough, Jacksonville went down. Lawrence was great in the second half. Now, those first half interceptions, I will say, Trevor Lawrence admitted he did not play well. They did not play well. The first pick of the game, second play of the offensive series for Jacksonville was an interception. That led to a touchdown. Austin Eckler had 2 rushing touchdowns for the Chargers. And Justin Herbert looked great in the first half, but they couldn't do anything in the second half. So 2 interceptions, 3 by Asante Samuel of the 4 interceptions. So what a game he had. Asante Samuel Jr., I should say. 3 of the 4 interceptions in the first half. But here's the problem. And you can go back and look at the film. You can debate me. In fact, I want you to debate me on this if you think it's wrong, because Jacksonville was not getting the calls in the first half. And now the Chargers fans are all over Twitter, all over social media saying that they did not get the calls in the second half at all. And maybe that's true. Maybe that isn't true. But I'll tell you this, it's clear as day that one of the interceptions was definitely illegal contact that Asante Samuel got one of his interceptions on. And then there was a pass interference call that did not get called in the end zone as well. And there was another helmet-to-helmet on a sack, on a throw by Lawrence. It wasn't a sack, but it was a helmet-to-helmet by Derwin James, who came in on a blitz to Lawrence. The pass went incomplete, but they did not call the 15 yards. And that could have really debilitated Jacksonville going into the first half. As it is, they were down 27-7. Not very many comebacks. In fact, this is the 3rd biggest comeback in playoff history. The Houston Oilers years ago blew a lead to Buffalo, and then NBC had it. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but this is the 3rd biggest comeback. Jacksonville on the Riley Patterson game-winning field goal, 36 yards out, a 31-30 victory over the Los Angeles Chargers. They are out. I'm not one to talk about job statuses, but I know Brandon Staley's name's been mentioned all over Twitter. He played all his starters last week in a game that was meaningless. Mike Williams was hurt. The star wide receiver did not play today. In fact, he was out. So that hurt their chances as well. DeAndre Carter, their kick returner, he got injured. They had to go to another kick returner. And so they were down a man, certainly on the offensive side. Keenan Allen did everything he could. Austin Eckler did everything he could. Gerald Everett, the tight end, did everything he could. The defense played well in the first half. The second half, they just got out-executed. Jacksonville out-executed them. Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram had great game. He had a touchdown pass as well, too. Evan Ingram was great. Travis Etienne, the key to the game for Jacksonville, running the ball. They were able to run the ball with Travis Etienne. And, in fact, Lawrence even ran for one first down as well, too. So, all in all, the second half was a different game from the first half for Jacksonville. They wait and see who they play tomorrow after the 2 AFC games tomorrow, Miami, Buffalo, and then Baltimore and Cincinnati. They reseed. The NFL reseeds after every round. So if the Ravens or the Dolphins win, then the Jaguars will go play the Buffalo Bills next week. If they win their game, if they win their game, they'll have a chance to play the Buffalo Bills. If all the top seeds win, then Jacksonville will go play Kansas City next week. So in other words, if Miami wins or if Baltimore wins, the lower seed, they'll be lower than Jacksonville. So they'll get Kansas City, and Jacksonville will get the next game. And in fact, if Buffalo loses and Cincinnati loses, Jacksonville could get another home game. And wouldn't that be something if they get they won't get the Miami Dolphins, but if they get the Baltimore Ravens, they've already beaten the Ravens once this year. They beat them on a 2-point conversion and a late turnover by Lamar Jackson. We'll preview those games later on in the show. But as far as today goes, and my picks for the best bet segment, San Francisco minus 9.5, 41-23 win over Seattle. And the Jacksonville Jaguars plus 2.5, a 31-30. I will say half lucky. I will say thank you to Jacksonville for making a game of it. Not only making a game of it, but coming back to get that field goal by Riley Patterson at 36 yards. Out 2-0 for me today. Best bet segment has been very successful in the NFL, still near about 70%. First weekend of the playoffs, off to a good start with San Francisco and Jacksonville. By the way, San Francisco is the 2 seed. They will play the winner of Dallas or Tampa Bay on Monday night if the Giants win. If the Giants win, they'll get Philadelphia for the 3rd time this year. If they don't win, then the Minnesota Vikings will come in to San Francisco, to Santa Clara next week for the NFC divisional round. And then the 4 seed Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the 5 seed Dallas Cowboys will go play the Philadelphia Eagles. That game on Monday night. All right, so there you have it. San Francisco, Jacksonville, the 2 winners on Saturday. 3 games to preview tomorrow. Miami, Buffalo, the Giants in Minnesota, the Ravens, and the Bengals. All 3 of those games, they played each other at least once this year. Minnesota, the Giants played in Week 16. Giants lost on a 60-yard field goal at the gun. Buffalo and Miami already played twice, being out of the AFC East. They split that series, Miami winning at home, Buffalo winning on a Tyler Bass kick at home 4 weeks ago against Miami. And then Baltimore and Cincinnati, Justin Tucker had a game winner against the Bengals in Week 4. And then in week 3 or Week 4, I forget. But last weekend, the final weekend of the year, no Lamar Jackson, no Tyler Huntley. Anthony Brown had to start for the Browns. And even then, they played the Bengals close. They can stop the run. They can rush the passer. Joe Burrow hasn't been protected that well this year, even though the numbers say that he's been outstanding, and they've been outstanding. The second hottest team in football coming into the playoffs right now as are the Cincinnati Bengals. Of course, they had the canceled game with Buffalo 2 Mondays ago, so the streak kind of a little derailment, and they only played 16 games. So right now, as it stands, Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles are 1 seeds. They both have byes this weekend. San Francisco, the 2 seed in the NFC, beats Seattle. Jacksonville, the 4 seed in the AFC, beats the 5 seed in the Los Angeles Chargers. So there you have it for Saturday. 3 games on Sunday, 1 game on Monday night, and the next weekend, a divisional weekend, as we have Wildcard weekend. Right in the middle of Wildcard weekend, all the excitement going on. Should say Super Wildcard weekend. That's how the NFL promotes it, so we won't deviate from that. Wildcard weekend, Super Wildcard weekend. All right, when we come back in 1 minute, we'll go through the NBA and college basketball, and then we'll preview the NFL games for tomorrow. We'll give you the lines for everything going into tomorrow. Don't forget, Daily Post for Sunday will be at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. It's late night, early morning, depending on where you are. A little after 6 o'clock on the West Coast, a little after 9 o'clock on the East Coast. In about an hour and a half, we'll have the Daily Post at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. All of Sunday's action in the NFL, the NBA, the NCAA, and a little bit of hockey as well, too, on this Sunday version of the VPartySports Podcast. I'm your host, Vasu Vaddiparty. Back in 1 minute. Welcome back to the VPartySports Podcast. Vasu Vaddiparty here with you on this Sunday morning. Wildcard Saturday, the San Francisco 49ers throttled the Seahawks in the second half, 41-23. Let me give you some more numbers now that I have them with me. Mitchell, a 7-yard pass. He had the 1 touchdown. Deebo Samuel, 74-yard pass. This is in the fourth quarter. This put it away. Robbie Gould field goal, a 31-yard field goal. DK Metcalf caught the touchdown late in the game, had 2-point conversion, failed, and that worked out well because at that time it was 18, so there was no chance of a backdoor cover if you had the San Francisco 49ers. McCaffrey had a touchdown pass from Purdy after the big run, 3-yard pass there. That made it 10-0. Walker the third, and then a Gould field goal. Metcalf 50 yards, a Gould field goal, a Myers field goal from 56 to close out the half, and then Brock Purdy with a 1-yard run to open up the third quarter. They handled that drive for 7 minutes and 15 seconds to open the third quarter, and it was capped off by the Brock Purdy quarterback sneak. Then Mitchell, Samuel, and Robbie Gould again, 41-17 at that point. Window dressing for Seattle, DK Metcalf, a 3-yard pass, 41-23. Niners await who they'll play next weekend. If Minnesota wins, it'll be Minnesota coming out west. If it's the Giants, then they'll face the winner of the Cowboys and Buccaneers, who play Monday night on ESPN, 5:15 Pacific time, 8:15 on the East Coast. Chargers and Jaguars, some of the numbers, 27-7 at the half, 24-3 in the second half for Jacksonville. Eckler a 13-yard run. Dicker a field goal. Eckler another 6-yard run. Everett a 9-yard pass. This was after an interception that made it 24-0. Dicker a 23-yard field goal. Evan Ingram with 24 seconds left made it 27-6. Patterson added the extra point. Marvin Jones opened the third quarter with a touchdown, 6 yards, 27-14. Dicker on a 50-yard field goal, 30-14. And then Zay Jones wide open, 39-yard pass, made it 30-20. They went for 2 at that point. That failed. Got the ball back in the fourth quarter with 5:25 left. Christian Kirk, the 9-yard pass. And then three-play possession. I'm going to look at this right now because I wanted to see this. Last possession for the Chargers. It was 3 plays and a punt. The touchback, sacked for -7. Short right to Eckler for 4. Kelly to the 30 for 8 yards, and then the punt for 49 yards. It landed at the 21, and that's when Jacksonville ended up moving down. Lawrence with the short pass to Kirk for 12 yards there. Lawrence scrambles left in for 8 yards there, and then Trevor Lawrence to Kirk for 9 yards, and then Trevor Lawrence to Zay Jones for 5. Etienne on a 2nd and 5 for 4 yards, 3rd and 1. The incomplete pass, timeout by Jacksonville. That was with 1:28 left. And then the 4th down play that's heard around the world, definitely all over Florida. 16 yards around the right end for Travis Etienne Jr. He gets to the 25. They move it up to the 16-yard line. I'm sorry, for 25 yards. And then -2 yards, centered it up for Riley Patterson. 2 timeouts later, Patterson a 36-yard field goal. Penalty declined on the offsides. And there you have it, 31-30 for Jacksonville. Now, we gave you the box score. Trevor Lawrence, 4 interceptions, but 4 touchdown passes, 109 yards for Travis Etienne. He's the key to that game. Ingram had 93 yards on 7 catches. Kirk, 8 catches. Zay Jones, 8 catches. And then Jacksonville, in the second half, they were able to get to Justin Herbert a little bit. They sacked him 3 times. Meanwhile, the Chargers got to Trevor Lawrence only 2 times. Half a sack each by Murray and Sebastian Joseph Day, and then Khalil Mack with the other sack. Interceptions. Let's go to the interceptions here. Asante Samuel had 3, and then Drew Tranquill had the other one. That was the first interception of the game. Meanwhile, Jacksonville did not get a chance to get to Justin Herbert from an interception standpoint, but they did hit him a lot. They hit him 10 times in the game. So 31-30, there's your final score for Jacksonville and the Chargers. +2.5 comes in for Jacksonville, and then -9.5 for San Francisco. All right, let's get to the NBA here a little bit. I want to talk about the NBA definitely Saturday. 7-game Saturday. Miami with a 111-195 victory over Milwaukee. No Giannis, no luck, no game. The Bucks and the Heat. Bucks now 27-16. Miami 24-20. As Gabe Vincent had 27 for the Miami Heat. Boston Celtics 122-106. That was Jason Tatum scoring 33 points. Boston did cover 122-106. They were an 8-point favorite going into the game. 232 the total. They stay under that game as well. Memphis a 130-112 victory over Indiana. They keep rolling. Memphis now 29-13. They're tied with the Denver Nuggets for first place, but they're in second as Denver has already had the head-to-head on them. They beat them once already. Memphis now 11-10 on the road. Indiana, who's been hot at home, and they do cover at home. They're 23-21, 15-9 at home, but they did not have Halliburton, and Memphis was too good today. Excuse me. Atlanta, 114-103 victory at Toronto. Trae Young played well. He scored 29, DeJounte Murray 27. That was what Atlanta envisioned when they traded for DeJounte Murray from San Antonio to have an all-star combination in the backcourt, and today it paid off. The last time they were in Toronto, Atlanta lost by 39 points. Today they get the 11-point victory, a 7.5-point underdog. Toronto was one of my picks based on what had happened the last two times, but today it was Atlanta. The Raptors made a valiant comeback in the fourth quarter, but end up losing 114-103. How about the Minnesota Timberwolves? Trying to figure out what kind of team the Minnesota Timberwolves are. They're in sixth right now. They're at 500. Everybody's bunched up between 5th and 10th. Dallas at 24-20, all the way down to Phoenix at 10th at 21-23. Portland at 20-22, just out of the race, and Oklahoma City 20-23. Minnesota got a 110-102 victory over the Cleveland Cavaliers. Edwards had 26 points for Minnesota. Donovan Mitchell did not have his best game at all. He had 14 points. Jared Allen and Evan Mobley led Cleveland with 19. But Cleveland now at 27-17, entrenched right in the middle there, third or fourth place in the Eastern Conference. In fact, they are down to fifth now with Milwaukee and Philadelphia ahead of them. They have more losses than Milwaukee and Philadelphia, and that's why they're in the fifth spot. But 27-17, a good record, but only 9-13 on the road. Philadelphia, 118-117 victory at Utah. They had a big lead, and they were favored by 7 points. Utah covers, but Joel Embiid had a jumper that ended up winning the game with 5.7 seconds left to give the victory over Utah. Good for Utah to make a show of it to come back. Philadelphia now 26-16, Utah 22-24. And then Portland rolled all over Dallas. I had Dallas +2, 136-119. A good showing for the Blazers, who usually play well at home. Dame Lillard had 32 points for the Blazers as they beat the Mavericks on Saturday night. Dallas now 24-20, Portland 20-22, but a 17-point victory for the Blazers. All right, Sunday in the NBA, Knicks at Detroit, Houston at the Clippers. We don't have a line for that yet. In a couple hours for Daily Post, we'll have that. Golden State 3 at Chicago, no total. Brooklyn will play Oklahoma City at home. Remember, Oklahoma City is the best road team as an underdog, and 230.5. No Durant for Brooklyn. He'll be out for a while. Does Oklahoma City come in with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Josh Giddey? 230.5 the total. You might want to look at that total as well because they can score with anybody right now. Can Oklahoma City. Sacramento 7 at San Antonio. The Denver Nuggets will be without Nikola Jokic again. He'll miss a few games. They've got a 3-day break coming up after tomorrow. They have Orlando, 231 the total, -10. Orlando can score. They give up a lot of points. The way Denver played in LA Friday night without Jokic, they're as good a team as anybody in the NBA right now. I know people in Boston screaming right now, but Denver's very good, a 10-point favorite over Orlando. Portland 5.5 versus Dallas. They'll replay that game from last night. A 17-point victory, as we said, for the Blazers. Now they're 5.5. They were 2 last night, and already the line has gone up to 5.5 against Dallas. And then Philadelphia will visit the Lakers back-to-back days. Joel Embiid got the game winner tonight against Utah, a 4-point favorite against the Lakers in Los Angeles tonight. So that's what we have in the NBA. Let's go to hockey real quick. 14 games on the ice. Buffalo beat Nashville. Tampa Bay beat St. Louis. Colorado shuts out Ottawa 7-0. Columbus beat Detroit 4-3. Calgary held off Dallas. Dallas scored 3 goals in the third period. Held off 6-5. I did have Dallas today, so that's a loss. But I did have Boston, the red-hot Boston Bruins, 4-3 over an equally hot Toronto Raptors in Boston. Philadelphia, their rivals against Washington, they get a win. They haven't played well this year at all, 3-1 over Washington. The Islanders, a 2-1 win over Montreal. Carolina, 2-1 over Pittsburgh. That's a big win for Carolina. Carolina's playing well this year. The red-hot Seattle Kraken, how you doing up there in the Northwest? You got a baseball team that's playing well. You got a hockey team, 8-5 over the Blackhawks. Edmonton goes into Vegas after shutting out the Sharks On Friday, actually, they didn't shut them out. Sharks got a late goal, 7-1 Edmonton Friday night, but they get a 4-3 win in Vegas tonight. And then the best game of the day, my estimation, the New Jersey Devils, who are red hot, 28-12-3 now after their victory, 5-2 over the LA Kings, who are 25-15-6. Minnesota 2-1 over Arizona. They were 380 favorite. Would you lay 380 on a hockey game? Boy, that's too close of a game for me. And the under 6 in that game. And then Florida beat Vancouver 4-3. Sunday in the NHL, only 3 games to talk about. The Montreal Canadiens will go back-to-back. They'll go to the New York Rangers. 290 the favorite, 6 the total there. Carolina, who's red hot right now, they're 265. They're playing Vancouver. The Horvat twins playing outstanding hockey. Bo Horvat's still third in the NHL in goal scoring, 6.5 the total. And then Winnipeg, about 350 against Arizona, and 6 the total. Winnipeg playing very well right now. They are on fire. And Arizona with that 2-1 loss to the Minnesota Wild. Yes, to the Minnesota Wild. But they will come back and play tomorrow with the Winnipeg Jets. And that's going to be a tough matchup for them. A lot of heavy favorites in hockey. It'll be pretty tough to take. Do you see any underdogs there? If you see any underdogs in the 3 games, let me know on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at VPartySports for the NHL picks as well. We have NBA as well. All right, one more break. We're going to hit the NCAA. Conference play abounded all day Saturday. We'll hit that for a few minutes before we preview Sunday's matchups for the NFL. This is a VPartySports Podcast. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. Thank you for joining me this early Sunday. If you miss any of it, if you miss any of the broadcast now, replays coming up for the next few hours until noon Eastern. Look forward to hearing your comments, seeing your comments on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. Vasu Vaddiparty here with the VPartySports Podcast. Back in 1 minute. All right, welcome back to the VPartySports Podcast. Vasu Vaddiparty for this Sunday morning. Once again, if you missed any of the show, get to the replays and catch up on all what's happened from Saturday. Give you a little preview of Sunday on the NFL. A little bit of a programming note here. We'll talk about college basketball. We'll kind of go over it a little bit. There's no games today in the ACC. There's a couple of games in the American, ECU and UCF. Memphis at Temple. On Sunday, there's 3 games in the Big Ten: Michigan Northwestern, Rutgers Ohio State, Iowa Maryland. Nothing in the Big 12. On Sunday, UConn St. John's and Xavier Marquette, both those games at noon Eastern. So we'll have those in the Daily Post for any picks. The MAC Conference, no games on Sunday in the MAC. Nothing in the Missouri Valley Conference. Actually, 1 game, Missouri Valley Conference. Missouri State -1 over Indiana State. Both teams playing pretty well in that conference. The Mountain West has no games on Sunday. Pac-12 has no games on Sunday. Neither does the SEC or the WCC. But we'll have all the Sunday action. Any best bets that we have for college basketball will be there on the Daily Post at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific in a couple of hours while we go through the previews for the NFL as well as the NBA, NCAA, and NHL. On Monday's show, we'll recap all the college basketball from the weekend, a big Martin Luther King Day. In fact, we'll be back at 9 Eastern, 9 a.m. Eastern again on Monday before all the games start on the holiday for Martin Luther King's Day as well. Big day in basketball, big day in hockey, and then Monday Night Football with Tampa Bay and Dallas that night as well. So lots to do on Monday with that show coming up. All right, NFL previews. We talked about San Francisco and Jacksonville. They're already in to the next round. First game of the day, the Buffalo Bills will host the Miami Dolphins. No Tua Tagovailoa. He's out. Skylar Thompson, who got them into the playoffs last week, he's going to start. Teddy Bridgewater is also out as well, too. Buffalo and Miami playing for the third time. Buffalo lost to Miami in week 3, the very famous Ken Dorsey incident in the press box, throwing the computer and the notebooks around when Josh Allen could not convert on 4th down at the 3-yard line for that victory. But Buffalo lost that game. But then later in the year, a few weeks back, Tyler Bass gets the game-winning field goal, 32-29. So Miami has covered both games. Miami about a 14-point favorite right now, and that's because there's no Tua Tagovailoa there in this game. So see what Thompson has involved with that. They split the season series. Both games are close, but Miami did cover both of them. The Giants in Minnesota, they played a few weeks ago. Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley lead the way. They're going to have to run the ball against this Minnesota team. Minnesota has 10 wins by 1 score. They were a 4.5-point favorite in Week 16 over the Giants. A miraculous comeback, a touchdown, a 2-point conversion, a field goal to tie it up. Actually, the field goal came first. The touchdown and the 2-point conversion came later to tie it up at 27. And then Greg Joseph, a 60-yard field goal to give them the win. Actually, it was tied at 24. Greg Joseph untied it with nothing on the clock from 60 yards to give a 27-24 win to Minnesota. Did not cover the 4.5. Here, they're a 3-point favorite. 10 wins by 1 score or less for Minnesota this year of their 13 wins. A couple of blowouts along the way. Giants defense has been good. They've been rushing the passer. They got to Cousins in Week 16. Secondaries played better. Justin Jefferson, obviously the key there, but you got Adam Thielen, and you've got TJ Hawkinson at tight end, Dalvin Cook at running back, lots of weapons for Kirk Cousins to use. See how well he uses them. But the Giants have Jones and Barkley. Daniel Jones has only thrown 5 interceptions this year, so he's been on a really good pace. Saquon Barkley was up near the top 5 in rushing for most of the year, and then a couple of games, and then the last game he didn't play, and a couple of games he had some off games while they were in their struggle because they started off 6-1 this year and looked like they had a chance to challenge for the NFC East. Of course, Philadelphia, the number 1 seed, has the NFC East. Final game on Sunday. Bengals throttled the Ravens last week. They don't have to worry about a coin flip now. They have to host the Baltimore Ravens. No Lamar Jackson. Tyler Huntley still questionable, but it looks like he's going to play. Anthony Brown started last week. Cincinnati has to protect Burrow. Baltimore has to run the ball. Baltimore has to get to Burrow. He's been sacked a lot this year. And then Tyler Huntley has to make sure that he manages the game. Hate that term, managing the game, but they've got to be able to run the ball with Edwards and the such, and also J.K. Dobbins is back as well too. But they don't have a lot of wide receiving depth, and you can only throw to Mark Andrews at tight end so many times. So that's what we've got going there for Baltimore and Cincinnati. And then Monday, we'll give you a full preview on Monday. But the Buccaneers, an underdog at home to the Dallas Cowboys. They have a worse record than the Cowboys, who are the 5 seed. But the Buccaneers won the NFC South, so they get the home game. And their deal is to run as best as they can. They've got to stop the run on defense. They've got to force pressure on Prescott. Prescott tied for the lead in interceptions, league lead in interceptions, and they've got to protect him. Meanwhile, Brady has got to figure out how to manage the game. Again, game manager. He's no game manager. He's the GOAT. But they've got to run the ball. They've got to keep that Dallas offense off the field, and they got to run right at the Dallas Cowboys defense, who's given up yards this year. They lost to teams such as Jacksonville. They had a tough game against Houston. They lost to the Washington Commanders. Sam Howell's first career start for Washington. By the way, Washington said that they're looking at him, Sam Howell, University of North Carolina rookie this year, to be the QB1 coming into 2023. And he looked every bit a QB1 against the Cowboys last weekend in that 27-6 victory over Dallas at home. Kept Dallas from even having a chance at the NFC East, though the Eagles did win and ended up winning the East. So anyway, Buccaneers, 2.5-point underdog. Brady, 7-0 all-time versus the Cowboys. We'll break this down on Monday for the show, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. The lines for the games for tomorrow: Buffalo -14, 43.5. Thompson in at quarterback for Miami. Josh Allen, no red zone turnovers. He led the league in red zone turnovers this year. And because there's no Tua Tagovailoa, Buffalo's line has gone up to 14. We heard Damar Hamlin is out of the hospital. He visited his teammates in the locker room. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if he showed up on Sunday on the field in front of that crowd? It was already raucous last week. And what a storybook script that was with Nyheim Hines running the kickoff back 2 days after getting the word that DeMar Hamlin is going to be okay, and then he was breathing on his own. 14 and 43.5. Giants and Vikings played each other. Vikings -3 and 48 the total. Could be a high-scoring game. Depends on the weather. Don't see it being high-scoring. Giants have to try and get Barkley active. Daniel Jones cannot make mistakes, and they've got to pressure Cousins. The defensive secondary has been really good the last 5 weeks, so they've got to figure out a way to shut down Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, TJ Hawkinson at the tight end spot. Dalvin Cook running the ball as well, too, has been a big factor for Minnesota. And then Matson near the goal line in the red zone has been their touchdown maker. Cincinnati 8.5 versus Baltimore. No Lamar Jackson, 40.5 the total. They lost last week, but they were one score away from covering that 9.5-point spread. This line started at 9.5. It's now down to 8.5 for Cincinnati. Don't underestimate Baltimore. They can put pressure on the quarterback. They've got enough game in them with their skill positions to be able to make this a game. But the key is on defense for them to be able to contain those wide receivers in Higgins, Boyd, and, of course, the great Jamar Chase. You stop those three guys, you figure out how to bottle up Joe Mixon, you might have a shot at winning this game. John Harbaugh is no dummy. He's been around this game a long time, and he'll figure out a way to try and slow down that Cincinnati offense, who's been red hot. And then Monday night, Dallas to 2.5. This, to me, is a bad line. I mean, I might as well just give this to you already. If Dallas is going to be favored on the road the way they've played, they have not played well on the road. Tom Brady's 7-0 against Dallas. I would tell you that Tampa Bay is going to cover that 2.5. The only other time they were an underdog was to the Bengals earlier in the year. They were at home. They got off to a big lead, but defense could not hold the red-hot Bengals at that time, and Cincinnati ended up routing them. But I cannot see Dallas with their offense the way it's been sputtering the last few weeks. Prescott with the turnovers. Pollard, the leading rusher against Washington, only 19 yards rushing. Where is Ezekiel Elliott for the Dallas Cowboys? He's one of your top runners. I thought this was a tandem running back crew. I guess they didn't use him because they were down big and they had to pass a lot. But I have to say, you got to find Ezekiel Elliott somewhere in this game to help you balance the run-pass distribution for the Dallas Cowboys. But that's Monday night. We'll preview all that. We'll have all the injury reports. Buffalo, Miami, 1 o'clock Eastern on CBS. Minnesota, 3 versus the New York Giants, 4:15 on Fox. Cincinnati, 8.5 versus Baltimore in Cincinnati, 8:15 on NBC tonight. 49ers win. The Jaguars come back from 27-0 down to get a game-winning field goal. They win. They await to see who they play next weekend after the games on Sunday. We'll let you know all about the games. We'll talk about the NBA. We'll get the NCAA in action, West Coast time anyway, for the NCAA. Hockey will have morning and afternoon games as well. And, of course, the NFL game on Monday night, 8:15, ESPN and ABC for Tampa Bay and Dallas. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. Once again, we'll be back Monday, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. If you miss any of it, you get the replays following up until tip-offs for the college basketball. The NBA with Martin Luther King has a full schedule as well, too. And then today for Sunday, we'll recap all the NBA, NHL, some of the NCAA, and we'll go through the 3 games of the NFL Wildcard Weekend, Super Wildcard Weekend for the NFL. Thanks to everybody on Facebook. Thanks to everybody on Twitter. Thanks to everybody on Instagram for your comments. And thanks to everybody on YouTube for subscribing. Really appreciate the support. Really appreciate what you've all done for me in the 2022 year. Looking at bigger and better things in 2023. I'll have my daily record on the Daily Post in about an hour, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, the Daily Post with the Best Bets segment, the never duplicated, unprecedented, world-famous Best Bets segment. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. That's the VPartySports Podcast for this Sunday. Have a great afternoon. Good luck with your games, and we'll see you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific on the West Coast with the VPartySports Podcast. Have a great day.